So, hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 62 and this is the continue of our exercise solution, and this video contains the part which you can skip in this exercise, which is the number 5 you can see here, because it's too difficult for starters, and I present here only a half solution, not because it's too difficult, because I made it in a so bad way that you never should do this way. And yeah, but if you have a solution for that, whoa, that would be, yeah, then you are already a good programmer. But if you have no solution, no problem, because this line of code is not easy for starter. This is this is not something to ask for starter. Definitely not, because we train here the keywords and how to use variables, and here we have actually to do a lot of things. Even this line looks so very simple. So let's get started with this line, which will break the whole code. Let's see what it does. So it says here, check how many persons have selected the same book or game in code and print out the person's name. So before you start with this one, you have to find a very good strategy to solve that, and I found a very bad one, which cost me a lot of line of codes and copy paste and copy paste. What is the problem with that? That looks very simple, right? When we read this line, I have just how many persons have selected the same book or game, so I make just a check, right, about the persons who selected the game. That sounds really simple in code, and print out the person's name then who have selected the same game or the same book. And actually it's very simple when we read this. So I have just to do things like that. Maggie selected, for example, Jockey and Monkey and as a book, and if Levin has selected Jockey and Moggy as a book too, then I have just print out these two names. So that is more or less the thing what we have to do here. So, and what is the problem? The problem is how we check all conditions. I mean, here in this game, how we check all of them together to each other. That's the problem here. So how you solve that? There are, if you already know more keywords and other structures and so on, then there are ways which is very easy. But we are starters, we have not learned all keywords and we have not learned all structures, which means our tool set is too limited. And now we have to find a way to solve that. Let's try it. So we scroll down. So what I did here, let me show you that. First of all, what we see here has nothing to do with this. At this part I stopped, where this was the last outprint of all the persons. But here I wrote something more for later compare, but this one is not even the compare section. The compare section actually starts here, and what you see here is just another preparation for the compare section. So let's see what I have here in the compare section. So I have here many bools. Okay, that's not very important right now. And then I have here a very little code. It looks so little, but this is a fake, because I just use this little plus sign so you can hide the code. That's why it looks this sign here. This is in Visual Studio. In other IDEs might be different, but this means you can hide the code which you are not wanting. Let's learn this one also. For example, let's go here on top and say, here's the while loop. Okay, let's collapse all the while loop. Now you see what I mean. Look how many code we have here on while. Looks very much. And when I plus here, all is gone. So, and careful about this kind of stuff. It looks like there is nothing, but when you expand this, it is enormous. And this one will happen here exactly at this point. So what I did here, let's start. First, before we open this one up, is I said, okay, I will use this time a for loop. Okay, we learned a for loop. Let's repeat a for loop while we are at it. So let's say I start again with a start variable. I set it to 0, and we can see it here loop 7 times because no, that's not true. That's not true. What is that? I loop here not even 7 times. Interesting. I'm looping here only 6 times. Why? Because if I would loop 7 times, I would have here less 7 and then start with 0 to less 7. But here I have 0 to less 6, which means I'm looping here only 6 times. What is that? Okay, the first mistake is all time I have no description. And a comment should all time describe not the keywords, it should describe what you are going to do. Very bad. Okay, no clue, no? No clue right now. But let's expand here. What is doing? Let's try to see if we have a clue. So then I created a switch statement based on this I. This I is the only place where you can use a very little variable name because it's absolutely clear. This one belongs to the for loop and it is a start value. Of course, you can use here other variable names too in a short form. So, and I used again a switch. We already discussed a switch, and this switch is, yes, we have here 1 to 6 cases. So that makes sense. This loop here is looping 6 times, and this will be activated for the 6 cases. But right now we have still no clue what's doing, right? Let's continue. And then we learned something new. The cases here, and I think I have not talked about this one. I said after the case you can write code, but I have forgotten to say, not actually forgotten, that comes later, that you can use the case with this curly braces too. But why? Later we will learn that these curly braces actually are called a block and means it is again it has something to do with scope, which means now that this variables which you are declaring here is local, and that's very important. But here one more thing, if you could not use a switch and do this one, of course, what I said before, a switch is similar to a if statement, so it would work with a if too. All right, this one you could solve with a if too, because switch and if are similar. You can turn one into another and back, how you like it. All right, that we have learned so far. In this case I used a switch, and the only important thing was this curly braces to use, because these are becoming local variables, and we have not talked about that because the scope problem. So let's continue, but we have still no clue what I'm doing here, right? So there is again this plus sign. I have to open this up. All time when you see this dots, you can hover over it and have a peek what it comes. But let's open this one, the first loop. So what the hell I'm going to do here? I create, I have created in this switch. Let's go back, not here. Let's go here. It was this case 1. It is starting a while loop. Okay. And this while loop is interesting. It starts with 1. It's not with 0. Normally as a programmer, we start most time with 0. This should give us a hint. This one is not 0. Okay. Okay, interesting. And then I start this while loop. Okay, a normal while loop. And here a normal switch is after a switch. We have here a break, so I should stop. Okay. Let's open this one up and see what the while loop does. The while loop says, okay, I use also a switch. Okay. This while loop in this, we have here a switch, then we have a case 0, then we have again a while loop, and then I use again a switch. Okay, and this switch used the while counter, which is here wrong, I think. No, it's not wrong, it's right. And then it uses this while counter. This is the counter variable I use for a while all time, and the switch uses this while counter too. So these are connected to this one. Okay, let's say I have here a while counter 1. Okay, it starts with 1, right? Okay, then it will jump here 1. Is this less than 3? Yes, it is. Then it will go to the switch case and then say while counter. This is the condition, careful, and this jumps here to, it is right now 1, it will jump to case 1. And let's see what the case 1 does, and that's very interesting. And the case 1 is doing if book chosen group 1, and then with the while counter. So this whole thing here is an array with the number 1, because it will all time look up here on top of this one, is equal to book chosen group 2. Okay, then if this is equal, I will set something like book chosen group 1 to 1 to true. So that makes absolute no sense here, because here we had needed a very nice documentation about this one, but not about the game words, but because what we are doing here, a programmer or another person who is reading that, he will not understanding anything here. I mean, okay, there is something like a group and then is comparing. Okay, you would understand this one is comparing with this one, and if this compare says is equal, then it would say yes, then we can set this book chosen group 1 to 1 to true. So far he can understand it from code, but what is that? Why we compare here at all? He will understand nothing, and that's bad documentation. So that we learned. Done. Here is something interesting too before I solve this, what we are going to do here and why we are going to do it here. Here's something interesting. We learned about a switch that it has a break, right? Where is the break here? Case 1, break, but I used it not here, right? And then case 2, the break here. So that's very interesting. You can use here many if statements how you want, and important is just set the break at the end. But of course you can make here use something like, yeah, let's don't confuse too much when I say here about other keywords which you can use here too. Okay, let's continue. So first of all, we have to find out what this whole thing does. We have right now no clue. The point is book choose group 1. We can make this one here peak definition. Okay, there is on top I made a string. Now I see what this book group choose is. This is a string array with 3 slots, and it was set empty at start. Okay, and then game, and the same I have for games too. So this is the book chosen group, and here I have a game chosen group. So now I understand it. The book chosen group is the person who chose the books. And let's write this on top. So we are here. Also, let's write at least a comment here. Persons who chose books. And then let's write here also at least a comment. Persons who chose games. All right. At least this should help me a little bit if I have not here a documentation. And then what I'm doing is I am comparing. So, okay, I have a book chosen group 1 with book chosen group 2. So what I'm doing here actually is I compare this one, this group with this group. Okay. that's clear. What I do next? Book chosen group 1 with book chosen group 3. So what I do next is I take the first again and compare it with the third. Now I get the idea. So what I'm going to try to do is I compare all to each other here with the book groups, right? So I will take then this one compared to the third, this one compared to the fourth, and then this can compare to the fifth and to all. After I'm finished, look what happens. This is the first, and this one is for okay, let's finish this one first and then say what we said after we compare. So this, okay, we have understand, okay, I comparing to each other, but but how I'm comparing, it's interesting here, right? So I choose the book chosen group 1, and then I say I use this while counter in right now it's 1, and then here the book chosen group, it's also 1, which means it is slot 1. It is slot, yes, 1 and not 0. So this is a little bit tricky to see. And what I did here, why is this tricky? Because 1 means I'm not comparing slot 0 here. I will have later here 3 slots. Let me show you what I have later here. I will have later in this curly bracket something like name, let's say Maggie, and then I will have then slot 2 perhaps what we can do, book. No, what is the second thing what we can like, anything like that? Let me see what we have there. Maggie, ja, if is a book selected, so probably Jo, E and Moggy, and then we will have here the book color red. Let's make this one red. So this will, something like this will stand in here later. And where we assign this, actually we can go here, peak definition, no, go to, let's go to definition. Is there? No, it's not. So there is another way to jump. There was the place where we assigned that anywhere, and the place was here in the while loop probably. Yes, here in the while loop on the bottom I said when we printed out all persons, there was one more step what I made, and I said what the hell is going on here? And then I said they compare something. Actually in this place they compare nothing. They are assigning values here, and that's a wrong thing. Here assigning values to the groups, to the group, to the group. So something like that. This is here, and then you can see that what I showed you first, the chosen person, Maggie, the book, the title is then Jockey and Moggy, and the book color was right. This is exactly this one here on the bottom, and then it will be saved here. So something like that is happening there, okay? And then it will happen for all, so they will be all filled, and later I compared this one with this one. And the interesting thing is here, let's go back to, let's skip this here, or not this one, make this a little bit the while loop gone so I can scroll faster. And then what happens is, now I was here, if this one, and then it checks this one with the book chosen group 2, and if this is true, then I created here a new variable. Let's see where I created this one again. That was this, all these false variables. So that was a little bit on top here actually. This all false variables which you see here is only created to compare later, to set for true, false, true, false. And what I did here also is, you can see this book chosen group, And here is again something bad, but I made it so. And what is this bad? Here I choose book, chosen group 1. You can see this is the number 1. Book, chosen group 2. This is the number 2 here. And this last letter is actually the counter, which means the slot. So I should normally document this also without and say something like numbers, number meaning 1 like group 1, something like group 1. So group 1, 2 is group 2, and 1 is slot of array. Let's say not end here and make a comma and make here 1 is like slot of array. Something like that, so you can understand. If you don't understand, that's no problem. The thing is, this one is just an array. Let's peek definition here again, and you see this one is actually not an array. What I did here, this is a bool. Yes, this is a bool, but this was this comparison. So you take here, you compare this one with this one, and then on slot 1 it's true. Okay, that's still true, only this one was not true, that I said this is an array. This is still okay. This is just a description what this bool did. So it take here the group 1, it compared it with the group 2, and it checked on both the slot 1, and then if this was true, it said true. So this one is a shortcut, actually a short description for this whole thing here. Yes, and you see this is doing for all these variables now. Because why I'm doing that? Because I have to check now all groups. First I check this one, and then I start again from top, not with 1, then I go to 2 and go for the other ones. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I start again with 3 because this one is already covered. Then 3 with 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I go here, and you see this is a whole of a lot of work. And when you see something like that, you should use not even this what I have. This is also bad. Something like loops, arrays, and better forms. And that's why I said don't use this. This line of code is really hard, because all cases to check through with a not good loop, it's crazy, and it will be crazy because I'm not finished. Because after I did this one, look what happens. This is case 1, and then I have to jump to, no, this was case 0, and then I have to jump to all cases here, and you see I scroll down till I'm finished with all cases. And then let's go, then I'm not finished. Then so in the end, let's say so, and let's close this first because this one is again too big. What I did here, where is that? While it's here, where's my loop here? Why is that not there? Okay, I don't know. We have here a while. Something strange, I can't close this. Did I something? I don't know why. Right now I can't close this. Let me see something. This. No. Okay, I will continue. The problem is I don't know why this side here disappeared. This, not because of this one. Why this one is not here for the for loop. Normally you can close this here too, but okay, it looks like you can't anyhow. I don't know why. What I did here, this was not the thing what I wanted. But it's okay. Let's continue. See what happens. Yes, don't know why. Anyhow, I deactivated the thing here, but okay. Let's continue and see what we have to do. So after I selected all these things, things what you see here, after I set this, not selected, after I set this with this check here, the last step is now to find the same group. So more or less I have to do all that what I did so far again anyhow. And let's see. Then the way I did this one is all with this if statements this time. So I started here again with if book chosen group 1, and then we have set this one. That was all this peak, this definition. That was all that what we set here right now, what I explained there with false or true, these groups they compared, and then I compared them to each to the slot 1 here. This last number is the slot with the slot last number with this slot, and here you see something new. What is that? That is a logical operator, and this one is the alternative. Of course you should use normally this one, because this one is the real thing what you should learn. I just wanted to show that we can use here the alternative too. And one more thing here, if you use this one, this round brackets which you see here are not necessarily needed, but to make it clear and without looking all time what comes first and what comes later, make it sure to use this round brackets. It's absolute makes it easier. You see, I have just compared this block and then this block with a AND, which means this block must be true, this block must be true after comparing. And if both are true, only then I will go into this if statement and print something out. And here I'm printing out book chosen group 0. Here is just the 0 one, which is book chosen group 0 is done is Maggie in this case, because 0 is when we go here peak definition again, and then we see we have set this again in code that was not given. We set this, and here it would be Maggie, and that's interesting. Maggie, I know that 0 is Maggie because the person here is set in a way that, yes, that was set in a way that is absolute certain there. And Joggy and Moggy was only on red. That was the real thing what I had to check in the code. We discussed this here a little bit on top, why we did this so. But here I have just to check that this person, and after I check this one and this one, if they are true, then I printed out book chosen group 1, which would be here Maggie, and here the book chosen group 2, which let's say would be 11. And if they have only the same books titles and book color, I print this one out. And here you see another mistake actually, because this if outprints, they are again not covered for double selection, so that can cause problems. No error handling, no exception handling, but we will learn this all later. And the next thing is what you can see here is also if I select, for example, error, here error, and here error, it will print this one out too. Why? Because error will mean here empty and empty and empty. Yeah, let's say here empty and empty will be true, so it will print this out as empty. So only this end sign in the middle. So we have there an error also. And yes, that was more or less the last step. But the next problem is here. That was only what you see here. The whole code that was all made with copy paste more or less and changing the variable names. That was, and that all what you see here, this kind of comparison is one part, because this one is only for this one is only for books. I made it only for books here, and now I can do the same thing here, similar thing for games. So with other words, all this line of codes again for games. And I said no, I stopped. That's not really the way you should learn this. I show you that as a bad example, but it's a good training actually, because here if you tried it, because that's very important, then you learned here how to use these variables and how to try to use this in context. That's very important. And let me talk here at the end about the real thing, or what you should learn in this exercise. At the start of this tutorial series, I talked much about variables, right? And I said if you can handle variables, you have almost succeeded 40% or more about programming. Why? Let's count how many variables we have, and let's count how many keywords we have here, right? So it's very easy. We will not really count it, because we will just see this bluish color. What you see here is a variable. So all time when you see a bluish color here, it will be a variable, but of course different kind of variables. This one is an array. This one is, for example, a string array, and there is a int, and so on. And then we have some keywords. The keywords are in this purple or yes, in this color here. And when we count now the keywords, actually, let's see how many we have of this keyword. So 1, 2, and this one is considered to be 1 because this belongs all together. Okay, we have here 1, 2, let's say 3, 4. Let's count the other ones. 2, 5, 6. This is then only the 7, 8, and these are all the same. 8, 9, 10. Let's count them out. But you can see the keywords are actually not that much. Only when you use it very bad like me, then you repeat a lot. But what I want to point out is here. Sorry. Let's count the variables. So this bluish color. Yes, you can see when you count them, the whole code consists only almost about this bluish color. Everywhere you will find everywhere this bluish color, and the reason, not this blue color, this bluish color here. And the reason for that is we are using variables. We need variables. We are saving variables. We creating variables. We assigning variables. Later we will even delete variables and change variables. And you can see almost the whole code contains only variables, and our job is to learn to use them, and with these keywords, with other things, and so on. And that's why it's very important that we try to do exercises. And this exercise actually, yes, was again a bad exercise, but on the one side, because it was too complicated and there are too many things we don't know, and it's hard to solve as a starter. Because if you know a little bit more structures and a little bit more ways, you can convert many things what you have here in other forms, and then it becomes again very, very easy. So for example, the list of lines which you see here, what I made here, I could convert easier to other structures or use other structures, and then I do it one time and have it all at once. And here I spent almost, I think, let's see, I'm around 658 lines. Okay, I made not formatting and so, but consider that I have made here only the half part. which means I would add here again around easy 500 around again, not 500, so around 300 again. So that's crazy, around 1000 lines because bad coding. Yes, but for a beginner, this one is very good. Why? Because you trained all the basics here, not all, but many basics here, using these variables, using all kinds anyhow. And I hope you did it, because there is one important thing, and that is understanding a code will not help you to be able to write a code. What I mean with that is, you know, perhaps you know the famous speech, if you read a book about swimming, but you never swam before, then you will still draw, right? Even if you are a genius and understand all perfect, save all, you will still die when you jump in very deep water the first time. And the reason for that is you have to do it. You can't, understanding alone will not help you, and that same goes in programming. You can understand all the keywords. Even the keywords are not very difficult to understand, because you can go them through in 1-2 months, and still after you go through them you will still not be able to program. And the reason is you have to program and see how to use them, and how the connectivities are, and how to call them, and how they interact together. And the only way is like doing, make mistakes. That doesn't matter. You see, I made here in this programming example 1000 mistakes, but there is one more last thing which is very important to tell. Actually, after you finished your coding, you are not really finished, because in my case I finished just here the first step. Normally what you have to do after you finish your first step is go through the whole code again and try to make it better, to try to solve all errors, to check all errors, to check your code, check spelling, check style, check. So there is something called later in coding, because what I did here was just throw in code and check if this works, and after it works I have to check all again in a later state for errors, and in one more step I could go one more step and go to a profiling check, which means I don't check for errors after I finish checking all the errors and so on. Profiling means make the code even better, which means, let's say this structure here, what you coded here was bad. There is a better way to make this, to, for example, for performance or for security or for other things. But this kind of stuff, it's very important to mention right now too, that you know it. In future we will talk about that as well, because right now we have not checked at all. I only said I made here many mistakes. That's okay. Later we will make examples, but I think little examples where we go to the other steps too. For example, the check step, the profiling step, and so on. But this requires knowledge, and this we have not right now. As a beginner, we are happy when we can handle these keywords. And the last thing what I want to do is check my code, my end result. What happens? Let's see if this is indeed printing out something useful. Let's check it. So I select Maggie. Now I have to type much. Let's see if I can this. 0. I check the book 0. I check Joggy Moggy. And I check red. So this is my first. And let's make here really one comparison at least. I check now 11. I check now 0, because now I check all this book again. And book again. And this red. And the other ones I give all time an arrow now intentionally. Normally you should go now to John. Let's do this, at least the names right, and then we give all time arrows. 9 arrow, and then I choose 3, yes, mean, and 9 error. And then I choose 4 Habib and 9 error. And I choose 5 Kate and 9 error. And I choose Zach Smith and 9 error. So, and let's see what happens now. This is the last case. Bam. And we see found person, Maggie and Levin. That was really the only thing what I gave right. Let's compare it. Perhaps I can see it in code. Let me go here to my, oops, not here, to my if statements here. The if statement will find only books. I have not made it for games anyway. And this one, it found it. Good. Let's go here. And then that was the error which I said you. I have not caught this error. Error handling we have not discussed. And still, it says, okay, the default value was empty. And this default value was also empty. So I print end. And you see all the other states printed end, because I gave them all time an error. And also you could go here further and check all these states again to choose just the one and only output, but you see here is much to do actually to clear this code. But in our case we wanted only repeat as many words. I wanted to show what we learned so far and try to repeat, and in this case we repeated a little bit the switch and this switch while, and yeah, we did many things. Yes, I forget to say this one, we repeated this one as well with this while counter, with this plus equal assignment. I hope you know what this is. I think I went not down to this code anymore, but yeah, I stop with that, and I hope you wrote something better than me, because this code was not good. If you also failed like me, no problem. It was just training. But the important part is that you tried it, because this trying to solve it, it's more worth learning the keywords, because the keywords alone will not help you. This one will help you even if you failed. The reason for that is because you get better and better and better with time. And later you are so good after you learned all the structures, all the keywords, that you can even improve yourself by doing and seeing all these errors and handling. Because you should here try to get a feeling how to code yourself and solve problems your own way. Okay, with that said, I will stop this video, and if you have any questions or comments, ask it in the comments section, sorry. And yeah, bye for now and good luck.